everyone and welcome back. My name's dustinkreis and today we're going to do a game discussion and we're going to talk about this game right here, Etrian Odyssey 4. Now, disclaimer, I am at the final boss, and what I mean by final boss is that there is a post-game to this game with the true final boss. I am at Heavenbringer. And yeah, I've been trying for the last, couple hours to beat this final boss, and I just can't get things to lock in right. This is a very sort of strategy-heavy RPG, and if you're the type of gamer that just likes to sort of go into these battles with sort of loose strategies, this might not be the game for you. So, I have not beat the story proper yet, but I feel like I've played enough of the game to actually do this game discussion, and to be quite honest, I think I'm going to shelve it for just a little bit, because Bioshock Infinite's getting ready to come out, and there's some other games I want to play. You know, I just don't want to sit and grind this game hours and hours on end. I love this game, I think it's fantastic, but when I'm looking down the barrel of several hours of just level grinding, kind of takes some of the fun out of it. So, yeah, I'm going to be putting this one up for a little bit. I'll go back to it and eventually beat it, but yeah, it's not something that I can't deal with it right now, you know what I mean? But let's go ahead and get into it and talk about this, because up until the final boss battle, I had an amazing time with this. I'm really getting into these first-person dungeon crawlers, and my first one was actually the Dark Spire, and I played that for a while and just kind of got into a funk with it and thought maybe the genre is not for me. And then Xseed put out Unchained Blades, and I got that and played it and fell in love with it. So when this came out, I knew I had to get it, and for 95% of this game, I absolutely love this game. We'll get into that 5%, when we get to the gameplay. But let's go ahead and talk about the story. And from what I gather from the Etrian Odyssey series, the story is not the reason to play this game, this series. There's a story involved with, this land that the characters inhabit, and this large tree called Yggdrasil. You know, we've heard Yggdrasil in every video game, it seems like. But, and this tree sort of powers the life force of the planet, and then the Empire is planning on using it for nefarious purposes, and it's your job to go out and stop them. So you're flying around, and there are 5, maybe 6, I don't know about the post-game, sort of overworlds that you get to explore, and in those overworlds are about 4 or 5 labyrinths. So you're going to have a lot of things to explore in this game. And as you move through these, you meet characters and move the story forward. Now, if you're in love with games like Final Fantasy or Xenoblade, things like, very story-driven games, this is a much more gameplay-driven type of RPG. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of like old-school Dragon Warrior, where the story was very sparse, and it really focused on how you leveled your characters up, how you equipped them, and things like that. So from a storyline perspective, this is not going to light your fire. All the characters you select for your party are just no one talks to each other. There's no inter-party conversations or anything like that. Very basic kind of storyline that goes on here. But it does keep you playing, and I know some people I talked to online said basically they just kind of fast forward through the text because who the fuck cares, just get me to the next dungeon so I can explore. And so from what I'm saying is, storyline perspective, it's not going to break the bank for you. It's not going to light your world on fire, but, it does present some interesting things. Really, where this game really excels is the gameplay. And this is one of the deepest RPGs I have ever played. you pick your 5 party members, and just the wealth of options you have to sort of create them. When you get into like your skills and things like that, to when you level up your characters, um, it almost feels like in some ways I built my characters wrong. And I guess that, I've been reading on forums and things like that about, party builds and stuff like that. And just reading like everyone talk about this stuff, it's like I feel a little bit, out of my depth, a little bit over my head. Like this game is a pretty, how do I want to put it? If this was a lake, the lake would be the size of this 3DS case, but it'd be about 300 miles deep. You know what I mean? And just reading what all goes into creating these parties, because not only do you have your main class that you have to worry about building skills for, you also eventually will get subclasses. So you have to think about, what class would go well with a fighter, and things like that. And it's just, for, sort of RPG gearheads out there who really like to, mess with stats and that kind of thing, this is a fantastic game for you guys. Really is. But for me, who kind of prefers a little bit, I like stat grinding and things like that, but it's not my main focus when I play these games. So for me, I feel a little bit overwhelmed in a lot of ways by Etrian Odyssey 4. And, factor in the other gameplay aspects. It's a very, very intimidating game. I kind of went into this blind, and if I would have known more about this, I might have not have picked it up, because I'm like, whoa, that's a little too much for me. But I'm glad I did, because this thing introduces something that I think more RPGs really need to have, and that is a make your own map. A lot of people kind of say it bogs it down, but I really, really loved drawing out my own maps for this game. It took me back to when I was a little kid, and I was really into Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy, in the NES. And when I wasn't playing games, I would draw overworld maps and make up my own little video game world. It kind of takes me back to that. So for its exploration with the labyrinths, and for the map making, this is fucking fantastic game. Just that alone drew me in so much that, I'm moving through this cave and I don't even have that part of there mapped yet, and it kind of makes it a bit more, how do I want to word it? It keeps you on your toes a lot more as you're moving through these dungeons. Especially when you factor in things like the FOEs, or the foes, which are, more often than not, the battles in this game are random. But occasionally, you'll see a monster just kind of skulking around in the labyrinth. And rest assured, this monster will decimate you unless your levels are high enough. And, it's funny because there'll be a part of the map that's completely uncharted. But you'll see this little, circle with an arrow in it walking around there. You're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to be walking in on something. It provides a nice challenge to the dungeon, because not only do you have to worry about your resource management like in all RPGs, and then the normal random battles, which are, can sometimes be a pretty impressive slog, especially when enemies start chucking out status effects. And then the fact that if you take too long in a battle, and if there's an FOE next to you, every turn that you take in the battle, that thing's moving closer and closer to you, and eventually it'll join in the battle that you're already in. And, you will die. You will get a lot of game over screens in this. And the cool thing about it, though, is when you chart the map in the dungeon, you can save that. So you don't have to chart everything out again. And you have a better map to work off of the next time you go in, and you can avoid things. However, there are hidden passages in the walls, and some of them are only passable from one side. So once you get to that other side and go through it, then you can then go back the other way, and it's passable from both sides. If you die without saving, though, that resets. So you have to reset. You have to go back and explore those hidden passageways. But yeah, on top of the exploration and just the sheer amount of class type stat tweaking you can do. Not really stat tweaking, but skill tweaking. I'm at level 61, and I feel like I should be pretty prepared for this final battle. But I'm not. I am not, and I think it's really because I'm applying much more simple RPG thinking to my party build than what I really should have. It's a very, very intricate game. And I don't know, maybe I've just been playing too much, and I'm just trying to take a much too direct route in the battle. I'm trying to set up like poison circles and trying to lower their defenses and things, and it's just like I just get decimated. But by the time I got my everything up, it's just like, what the fuck happened? So I'm going to need to buy a lot more healing items and really kind of rethink my strategy on this final boss battle. But up until that frustrating bit, I was having an amazing time with this. What else? The music. I actually really like the music in this game. It's very jazzy in a lot of places, and it's kind of traditional RPG fare, like with the battle music. But I find that like the dungeon music is very interesting, and if you do buy the first printing, which is still out in stores now, you will get a soundtrack CD, and the soundtrack CD is kind of interesting because it's more outtakes and sort of different arrangements of the songs that you'll hear in the game. It's only like 7 or 8 tracks, but I still had a good time listening to it. But I find the music to be very enjoyable. Some tracks are standard RPG fare, but there's a couple that you're like, wow, this is really kind of nice to listen to. It's very relaxing as you're making your way through these dungeons just filled with terror. And of course the graphics. The graphics, when you get to these 3D dungeon crawlers, the graphics are never really anything to write home about. The 3D looks nice, but it's not necessary. The FOEs on screen are fully polygons. The environments are polygonal, but I mean it's just you can look on the internet there to see what the graphics look like. It doesn't get much more snazzy than that. So the only other thing I really want to talk about, and this is really not typical of this company, Atlas put this out, and case is too strong, comes with no manual. Now Atlas is not the kind of company that skips on a manual, and so I don't know what's going on. I know it's just not my copy because TV and Lust commented on the same thing. It's really strange for a company that kind of goes out of its way to give you bonuses when you buy their product that they skip out on the manual. So that's kind of a sad thing, and I posted on my Facebook a picture of that saying, for shame, Atlas. But, yeah, I don't know. It's a hard thing for me to recommend people going out and pick this up because it is probably one of the most difficult RPGs I've played in a long time. Not so much difficult from a, like, oh god, the battles are so tough, but just difficult in, a lot of times it feels you feel overwhelmed, and you feel like, shit, if I put the skill point into this, is that going to really affect things later on in the game? And unfortunately, when I was in earlier levels, I just spent skill points because I had them, and I should have saved them up for when I got to the higher levels. I realize that now. And that'll be something to remember when I go back and play the other Etrian Odyssey games. But I think I am going to shelve it for a little bit and play something else, get something else, refresh my brain, and then kind of go back to it and see if I can't grind out those levels and beat the final boss. And then I don't know about post-game. I'm just terrible at doing post-games, so I don't know if I'll do that or not. But anyway, yeah, I think Etrian Odyssey 4, if you're looking for a deep challenge, definitely seek this out, and it just goes to show you, again, this is the year of the Nintendo 3DS. So many great games coming out for this system that I can't keep up. Luigi's Mansion, I think, is out now, and I didn't pick that up. So, I don't know. But if you are looking for a challenge and you like first-person dungeon crawlers, definitely check this one out. Just know what you're getting into, because I know there were times where I was playing this and I was like, shit, I don't know if I'm going to get through this game or not. Not because it's bad, just because it's like, sometimes it does feel like an incredible slog. Especially when you explore a lot of the dungeons and you get a lot of items to sell, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to go back and buy some new equipment, it's going to be great. And then the next random battle just wipes you out. You're just like, fuck. So, yeah. I recommend it for people who want a challenge and who like deep RPGs. But for everyone else, the more casual RPG player, maybe get Unchained Blades first, because this one is a bit overwhelming. So, anyway, guys, that is it for Etrian Odyssey 4. BioShock Infinite this week. So you'll know what I'll be playing as soon as it comes out. Probably won't get it until like 6 o'clock Tuesday night, though, because I work Monday and Tuesday. But what are you going to do? Anyway, guys, that's it for this. So thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.